Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're ranking the Final Fantasy VII characters before that remake comes out. If that remake comes out. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going so good.
A piece of order, a piece of business that I would like to attend to before we get into everything else. I saw Fodl this weekend.
Oh,
our original guest on our Luigi's Mansion episode.
Way back in maybe like the first 5 episodes of the show.
Yeah, it was very early. I believe it was episode 4.
Yeah, go back for the delight that is Fodl, but skip past anything that you or I are saying.
Oh, 100%. The episode is titled WWLD, which of course stands for What Would Luigi Do? This is before we realized that we should name episodes things that make sense and not WWLD. But so I saw Fodl this weekend, and we were talking about Nintendo stuff. And he was asking about like Switch revisions, and then like stopped me at one point as I was talking. He was like, and he said like, "I'm sorry if you're repeating anything that you've said on the show, and I just haven't listened to it yet." And I was like, "Oh, that's okay, Fodl. Don't worry about it. We put out 2 episodes a week. It's too much. We put out too much. There's too much here." So then later during the weekend. You from our Nintendo Cartridge Society Twitter account tweeted, in case you missed it, here's our review of Yoshi's Crafted World, to which Fodl responded, "This feels personal," because he assumed that I, after talking to him on Saturday night, and he admitted to having not listened to something, was passively aggressively subtweeting Fodl, when in reality it was you, and you weren't even thinking of Fodl.
No, but now I am, so that was fun.
Yeah, I just wanted everyone to be in on this joke that I was enjoying. I was the only one who had all the pieces of it, but now we all have it, and we can all be together on it.
And that's what makes this show so great.
Yeah.
Here's another thing we can all be together on.
Yeah, Sonic Forces. Would you like to borrow my copy of it? You can. All you got to do is email us your address to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. I send it to you. You play it. You don't play it. You send it back. That's the end of it.
I think when we talked about this on Tuesday, we got so caught up in whether hedgehogs have scalps that I don't think we actually explained the program. I think we just
Is that
asked
right?
people to send us their mailing address. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. Send us pictures of your scalp. To Nintendo Cartridge Society at
Don't
do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Here's what you should be sending, Mark.
Listener questions.
Listener questions.
That's right. On May 9th, we're going to be celebrating our 250-ish episode.
That's right.
And we're going to be doing that by answering your questions. Nintendo related, not Nintendo related.
If you have questions about this show, how does it come about? It's maybe not an interesting thing, but if someone asks, we will answer the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything, get those questions to us if you can the Monday before that or the Sunday before that, because we will likely record on that Monday. But also, you can send in those emails like right now.
Yeah, why wait?
Why? Yeah, there's no reason to wait, but get them in before May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, first day of Ramadan, and of course the deadline for asking us questions.
And you can send those to
Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
All right, Mark, we've got some work to do here, so let's get into the matter at hand. Let's rank the characters from Final Fantasy VII. First, possibly a question for us, for me, for you.
Yes.
Why are we doing this?
Well, Final Fantasy VII is finally on the Nintendo Switch.
That's right.
So we can talk about it on this show in a non-433 capacity.
That's right.
But also because Final Fantasy VII is one of those like watershed gaming moments.
Yeah, and was a big deal for me personally. That it is the reason I bought first a Nintendo 64 when I thought it was coming to Nintendo 64, and then a PlayStation when I found out no, I am mistaken. It's only coming to PlayStation. So I was already a big fan of the Final Fantasy franchise, and just the I like. Do you remember the very early TV ads for Final Fantasy VII? It just the whole thing looked so cool. And the like sense of style in the game, I think remains one of its strong points. Like just its design. Graphically, it hasn't aged super well, and just in terms of like gameplay, like I think it's a tough game to get through. Like just in that it takes a long time and a lot of grinding, and all of that. But it always looks cool.
And I didn't come to Final Fantasy VII. I was obviously aware of it, and I had a lot of friends who played it and talked about it a lot. But I didn't play it myself until years later, like I think like 2009.
Yeah.
Because I had borrowed a friend's PS2. Basically, the PS1 and the PS2, I never owned them.
Sure.
The PlayStation 3 was the first PlayStation product that I picked up. And so I borrowed my friend's PS2 and basically played through like the backlog of games that I had missed. And so I played...
Man, I forgot about that. The PlayStation 2 is perfectly backwards compatible with PlayStation 1.
And so I played 9, 8, 10, and then 7. So I played a ton of Final Fantasy in like a short amount of time. And then so 7 was like the last one that I ended up playing.
Yeah, well, that's wild. I played them as they were released, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I played 6 like when it came out, like as it came out in the States. And had played 4 before that. So like I was also on a several years run of just like Final Fantasy. Like if you had asked what my favorite video game franchise was at that time, I probably would have said Final Fantasy. And this is, I guess as like Mario is like kind of sunsetting for a little bit or becoming like less relevant, with like the lone exception of Mario 64. So like, yeah, these games hold I think a special place in both of our hearts. And it's kind of weird that we don't love Final Fantasy that same way anymore, right?
Yeah, it really is. Because I'm the same way that for a long time, especially like when I was playing all these Final Fantasy games back to back, I 100% would have said the Final Fantasy was my favorite series. I was so excited for 13. Because, I had a PS3. It was going to be the first time in a long time that I like got a Final Fantasy game when it was initially released, and that's not a very good game,
right? And I mean, I think it's one of those things that like blows my mind that Final Fantasy 15, when it came out, I wasn't interested in picking it up.
It's just that the Final Fantasy games now are not what I loved about Final Fantasy.
Sure, that's
they
true.
Can be their own cool, fun thing, but they're not this. They're not Final Fantasy VII. They're not Final Fantasy IX.
Right. And even when, I made a joke in the opening about the Final Fantasy VII remake, when that does come out, I don't expect it to be recognizably like the game that we played in 1996 or whatever.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Like that's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be a great thing on its own terms. But I still feel like this sort of gameplay is timeless. I think the Dragon Quest games prove that you can still make a turn-based game and have it still be relevant and interesting and fun. And so I'm a little sad to see like backs get turned so much on what classic Final Fantasy is. But we're not here to cry about modern Final Fantasy.
Boy, that would make for an interesting episode title, right? Patrick and Mark cry about modern Final Fantasy. No, we are here to rank the characters.
That's right. It's been a while since we've had a ranking episode, so my blood is pumping.
Yeah. So let's get to who we're talking about.
Yeah,
here.
lay of the land.
We are talking about the 9 playable characters from Final Fantasy VII. Let's talk about them in the order they're introduced. As always, we are using amiibo to represent them.
Mm-hmm. And we are counting like the
two
optional
hidden characters.
Yeah.
So number one here, of course, we've got Cloud Strife here represented by the Cloud amiibo. This one was a gimme. I didn't have to think very hard. It's got to be Cloud. Cloud's got to be Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Next character we meet in Final Fantasy VII is Barret. Here, of course, represented by Mega Man, a man with a gun on his hand and a man with a gun on his hand. I feel like that's pretty perfect, right? Next is Tifa. Now, which of my amiibo can represent Tifa? I'm going with the little Mac.
I love it.
Because he's a boxer, she's a boxer.
Uh-huh.
She's got those boxing gloves on. It's perfect. The point cannot be argued. Next, Eris, the flower, Eris or Aerith, depending on what translation you like. We are using the Wind Waker Zelda amiibo,
which I really feel like captures the essence.
Yeah, she's wearing a pink dress and is like kind of, I don't know, she's got like her hands out. Like
yeah, like wind like tossed a little bit, like one with the earth.
And then who would be next? Would be Red 13. He's a dog, kinda. So we are using the Duck Hunt Dog amiibo. Next that we meet, we'll do the optional characters last. Next, we've got the Poochie, the Yarn Poochie amiibo representing Ket Shi, or Kate Sith, which is how I pronounce this character's name.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, where do you stand on that before we move any further?
So I always said Kate Sith.
Yeah.
Because Sith I knew from Star Wars.
Right.
And it's one of those like fantasy names where I had never heard the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
And so it's always just been in my head. Kate
right.
Sith.
I mean, just for the record, it is spelled K-I-T.
C-A-I-T.
C-A-I-T space S-I-T-H. Kate Sith. But it's like Scottish or something. Ket Shi. Anyway, so we'll go back and forth, I'm sure, and use both. And so yes, Yarn Poochie representing Kate Sith. And then Sith is being Sid, the airship pilot, Sid Highwind, is being represented by, and now I can't remember this owl's name.
Yeah, the owl from Animal Crossing.
Oh boy. I'm gonna look it up. Mark, you can walk us through some of the others.
Okay, sure. So for optional characters, we have Vincent, which I actually don't think you meet first.
You can meet them in any order.
Oh, okay. Well, here's another question for you.
Yeah.
Yuffie?
Yeah.
Yuffie?
I always said Yuffie.
Yeah, I always said Yuffie as well, but that's another one that I don't actually know how it's supposed to be said.
Blathers the owl. Is that right?
Yeah, I would believe it.
I think it's Blathers. I think we're using Blathers
to represent Sid.
Yes, to represent Sid Highwind.
Okay.
So yeah, for Vincent, we are using a Bayonetta amiibo because they're both like real moody.
And, sure, yeah. Okay.
And have guns and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then for the Yuffie, we are using the Octoling Girl amiibo, kind of for no real reason, other than like she's got a vaguely human form. I don't know. They get hard after a while. So those are the 9 characters that we're dealing with. Those are all 9 playable characters. And so, Mark, how would you like to begin? You mentioned that you have a character that you would like to see at the bottom of this list.
Yeah, and not necessarily because Yuffie is not necessarily the bottom for me, but I think it's okay that we didn't spend much time finding the perfect amiibo for her because she's definitely at the bottom of my list.
So, Yuffie is not at the bottom of my list.
Oh, okay.
For the sole reason that her ultimate weapon. So all of these characters have a different like unique weapon that is their best weapon. And for all of them, they all behave on like different weird rules, right? So Yuffie's ultimate weapon deals damage directly proportional to the target's level. So if you're fighting a high level character, she deals high damage. If you're fighting a low level character, she deals low damage. And Final Fantasy VII is a game that I was telling you this before we started recording, but like I had 3 playthroughs like right when the game came out. One that was just sort of vanilla. I played, whatever happened. One where I tried to do it fast, and another one where I 100%ed the game. And 100%ing Final Fantasy VII means fighting the extra bosses like the Emerald weapon and the Ruby weapon. And these things both have an absurd number of hit points, and the Emerald weapon can deal 10,000 damage to all of your characters in one move, and the Ruby weapon has an absurd like armor to it. Yuffie was the only character that I could get to deal the full 9999
Oh, interesting.
with her ultimate weapon because it deals damage based on your opponent's level.
So I'm glad that we are both doing this together, because I think that's a very good like technical reason to have her higher. I feel like from like a story perspective and from like a characterization perspective,
Totally.
she's one of the more shallow in the entire game.
So she is. I wonder if she is like ultimately more shallow than Cloud.
No. I mean, not necessarily.
Right.
And I'm not even saying Cloud is that high.
Right. Okay, all right.
But so yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. The one I was going to say that I kind of want to see at the bottom is Barrett.
Okay, tell me why.
Because as a character, as an idea, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
In practice, has not aged well. Like the dialogue is
real rough.
Is real bad.
So, and there are obviously a couple things going on.
It's super racist.
It's super racist. Yeah. Like, it's a Japanese depiction of an African American man, written in the 90s and then translated by one guy. Like the character of Barrett is written to be like a street tough, like a criminal.
But it's written in this like weird like jive, or what somebody like thinks jive is because they saw Airplane once.
Yeah.
I don't know. And this is kind of a problem in Final Fantasy in general. Whenever there's like a black character.
Yeah, and I mean it's also a little bit a problem with a lot of the female characters too, is that they are either written or animated by people who weren't thinking about that representation matters in these things.
Yeah.
But so I will agree that like Barrett's a bummer. And just like you, I think that conceptually the character is cool. I like that he has this daughter that is not actually his daughter, but is a little girl that it's like his buddy who died, right? Who maybe even like turned on him, and that's why he has the gun hand. Like that's an interesting story, but I do feel like Barrett's story taps out pretty early in the overall game. And then in addition to that, I don't think as a like functional member of your party that he's that good. Like early on, it's nice to have a character that can deal some good damage from the back row because he's got a gun on his hand. But by the end of the game, his limit breaks aren't super effective, and I forget what the condition is on his ultimate weapon, but it wasn't something that I was able to, spam to my advantage in the end game. So I'll agree that we can put Barrett, if not at the back, near the back.
Yeah, at least for now. We'll see where like the other characters shake out.
So in a similar vein, I kind of want to put Vincent near the back too.
Interesting. Tell me why. Explain this to me.
Okay. Primarily because his limit breaks make him useless. His limit breaks the way. Do we need to explain how limit breaks and
I think that's fair.
So limit breaks, as your characters take damage, a little meter like kind of builds slowly, and it carries over from fight to fight. And when they hit a level, then they can do a move called a limit break. And everyone has a different set of limit breaks. Everyone has 7 of them, I believe, except for one of these. Oh, except for Vincent, who only has 4. And so there's like 2 per level, and then for 3 levels, and then level 4, there's just 1. And the limit breaks usually deal a big amount of damage, or it's some kind of big attack. Vincent's are transformative, so he's like a werewolf or something. And each one of these levels turns him into a different monster. And when he turns into the monster, especially like later in the game, he's dealing less damage than he normally would, and you can't control him. And like, I don't know, I like the materia system in this game enough that like I've got the guys outfitted the way I want them, the way I want to use them in a fight. And as soon as that limit break pops up, and I can't just like let him attack anymore, then I feel like the character's gone.
Okay, so I feel like this is a reverse Yuffie.
Yeah.
Because as far as usefulness in your party, I don't dispute anything that you said.
Yeah.
But Vincent is so cool.
Vince, tell me why Vincent is so cool.
Okay. He's basically like the Final Fantasy, I was going to say Final Fantasy VII, but just Final Fantasy version of monster. Like universal classic universal
yes.
monsters.
Mm-hmm.
He sleeps in a coffin.
Totally.
At the bottom of a mansion.
Yep.
You know, he turns into all these different monsters.
Yep.
He
wears a scarf around his face.
He wears a scarf around his face, like he's Greninja or something. Like,
isn't that the Greninja's tongue?
Functionally a scarf.
Yeah. Okay.
It can be two things. Vincent was very high on my personal list. Again, not necessarily number one, but I would have a hard time accepting him way back at the end because as a character, just so cool.
The
idea is
very
so cool, even if like the execution doesn't necessarily make for the most fun to play.
Here's another thing. He uses guns,
which is not a great thing.
Not a great thing.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to get a read on that. I feel like I know you well enough to know that.
There you go. You got it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well then let's put Vincent off to the side. I guess
I think this
might be harder.
This might be surprisingly hard. Yeah.
We may be a little bit more divided on this.
Especially because we seem to be approaching these from different criteria.
Yes. I mean, I am also swayed by the coolness of characters.
Sure, yeah.
Which is, part of the reason why I haven't tossed Tifa down at the bottom. I like Tifa as a character. I think she, has to, I guess, spoiler for Final Fantasy VII. Aeris dies halfway through this game. And Cloud has been like pining after her the whole time. He's developed like a romantic relationship with her. And then after she dies, like Tifa kind of has to figure out how she fits into that equation. And I just like, as far as, stuff that characters have to do in this game, I feel like Tifa has some of the most, right?
Yeah.
She has to develop her identity within Avalanche, the group that all the characters are a part of. As they're basically terrorists blowing up.
They're like eco-terrorists.
Yeah, they're like eco-terrorists. And so she has to like find her role there. She has to like reestablish her relationship with Cloud, and then like kind of lose it and then reestablish it again. I don't know. I think she's very interesting. And then she also like kind of starts up the like a little bit of a maternal relationship with Marlene, Barrett's sort of de facto daughter.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with everything you were saying. Partly because some of that was just plot synopsis.
Yep.
So hard to disagree with. But
I dare you.
I think we're on the same page when I say that Tifa would be above Aeris in our final rankings.
I mean, maybe. Here's the thing. Tifa, when you get her into a battle, is not super useful. Again, her limit breaks are a bummer. Do you remember her limit break? It's a slot machine style thing.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that she learns a new thing, it adds another like roller onto the limit break. And each hit can only deal so much damage. And sometimes she's just gonna miss them.
Okay,
because you can spin a miss.
Okay, but like Aeris dead after the first disc. So
that's true.
Not the most helpful either.
Well, because she's dead.
Yes.
But you can level up Aeris. You can get her level 4 limit break before she dies. Mm-hmm. You got to really work at it, but you can do it. And it's great. It full heals everyone. It full magics everyone and makes everyone invincible for a little while. Yeah, but you could
also basically never play her except I think there's like a part where you're forced to.
Yeah, like when she and Cloud like first kind of meet.
Yeah, and you could get through it totally fine. Like if you didn't,
we're not going to be able to do this ranking. I don't think.
And So yeah, she is an important character,
Yes.
partly because her death is one of the all-time great moments in video games.
Yeah.
And if maybe not great, but at least like well known.
Well, so here's a question. Is that a great Eris moment, or is it a great Sephiroth moment?
No, it's definitely not a great Eris moment. That's what I'm saying. I think Eris is not the most memorable character. A new amiibo is hovering over to the table.
This is my Ganondorf amiibo. He's going to represent Sephiroth.
Okay.
And he is now... We have to incorporate Sephiroth.
We're complicating
into
this even further.
Yes.
I thought this was going to be a short episode.
No, we're going to go until midnight. Okay. Sephiroth is now in the lineup. The ultimate villain. Let's talk pros and cons for Sephiroth. So you do actually get to control him a little bit in Cloud's flashback, which is actually Zack's flashback.
So we're not breaking our rule. They're all playable characters.
They are all playable characters. Right. And when you get to play as Sephiroth, it's super cool because you got like Baby Cloud in your party. He's level 1 and he deals no damage and has no hit points. And Sephiroth is just effortlessly slicing through fools. It is great. But obviously the actual functionality of the character is hyper limited. You never get to play with his ultimate weapons or limit breaks or anything like that. But this is definitely one where I am moved by the coolness of the character. That long sword that just like trails feet behind him. The way he'll just like walk into fire. I like Sephiroth.
Yeah, I think he's very cool. Putting him in our rankings totally changes the top. Because I think he could potentially be number 1.
I think that is totally possible, yeah. All right, so that's just I'm putting him near the top right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And so we have no real consensus on where to put Tifa or Eris.
I think we have to decide that, because I think that will at least give us some sort of anchor in which we can put the other characters around, right? Because we can say, are they cooler than Tifa? Are they cooler than Eris? You know, like.
Sure.
We have to have some sort of starting point.
Right, because right now we don't have a starting point.
No,
other than maybe Barrett last.
Maybe. We don't
know.
Yeah.
So what are you proposing?
I'm proposing that no matter where in the final rankings they go,
we need to determine who is better.
Yes.
Eris or Tifa.
And then those can kind of be the goalpost by which we measure every other character.
Boy.
Because they are two of the more like sympathetic characters in the entire story.
Yeah. I mean, I would put them in that regard on sort of the same plane as Red 13. Even though his story is very much separate from like everyone else's. But it is a good story.
And the thing I like about Red 13, and I was doing
he's a dog, by the way. He's a red dog.
Exactly. And I love that. I love that he's just like an animal party member, 4-legged party member, totally different from any other party members. It's actually the reason why he exists is because Nomura, how do you say?
Yeah.
He wanted
the director of the game,
a designer on the game.
Sorry.
Now like a director on a bunch of projects, including like Kingdom Hearts 3 and the remake.
A legendary Final Fantasy Square creator.
Yeah. But he wanted like a 4-legged party member, and I think it totally works.
Yeah, it definitely does. And like his whole story and like going to Cosmo Canyon and like the fact that he has to like carry on a legacy of like a whole, race of warrior dog people, whatever, all by himself. It's all very cool. And let us not discount the coolness of the Cosmo Canyon music. Do you remember the music in Cosmo Canyon?
No, not really.
I'm going to look it up.
But I can we let the music of Cosmo Canyon sway our decision on Red 13.
I think we have to. I mean, listen to it. Oh no, this is an ad. It's an ad for GoDaddy. All right, here it is. Yeah. It's very patient with its layering. So we'll get to like the really cool part in a second. I mean, maybe it's not fair because all of the music in this game is awesome. But that's good music. That is objectively good music.
Okay, I'm proposing this order.
Please.
Tifa, Eris, Red 13.
Tifa, Eris, Red 13. As like somewhere in the middle of our pack?
Probably. Or probably towards like towards the top.
Towards the top, right. So only like the exceptionally cool or good characters go in front of them.
Like Sephiroth, yeah.
All right, Tifa. Oh, man. I like Eris so much. But okay, Tifa, Eris, Red 13. We are putting them in that order. And then we will decide where the other characters go in relationship to those three.
Yeah, and I think
better, worse, or somewhere in between them.
Yes, and I think Sephiroth, we are in agreement.
Better than these three characters.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And Barrett, I think fair to say, is not as good.
Right, not as good. Two characters we have not yet really spoken about: Ket Shi, Kate Sith, and Sid Highwind. Tell me how you feel about Kate Sith.
The design bugs me.
The design,
I've never liked that. It's like riding that robotic Moogle type thing.
Right. So the design of this character is a giant stuffed Moogle robot being ridden by a small black cat who wears a crown, all of which is being piloted by a guy who works for Shinra.
Yeah, I was trying to remember.
He's originally spying on you, and then he isn't.
Reeve.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, so is he one of the Turks?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, but he's a bad guy spying on you and then isn't.
Yeah, cuz he's trying to infiltrate Avalanche.
Right.
And like sabotage it. So he's trying to sabotage the saboteurs.
That's right.
And then he has a change of heart.
Counter sabotage.
So yeah, like I don't even think that how are we saying it?
Either way, either Kate Sith or Ket Shi.
Ket Shi is like it's just an avatar for Reeve.
Right. And I mean, what do we really know about the character of Reeve? Like,
not much.
I couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
Unless it's Christopher Reeve.
And even then I could tell you very little.
He played Superman. Was paralyzed for the latter decade of his life.
Was in a made-for-TV remake of Rear Window. Okay, so we could tell you.
Right,
like,
okay, so we know a lot about Christopher Reeve, but we don't know anything about this Reeve.
No.
So this is actually my vote for bottom of the list.
Okay.
Below even Barrett, because in some ways I feel like the creators did Barrett bad. Like this is a ridiculous thing to say, but it's not the character's fault that they wrote him that way.
Yeah, he's like Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, that's right. Although she should not be playing Patty Cake with the head of the studio. Look, I know she's being blackmailed into do that, but come on, you're responsible for some of your actions. But I don't care about Kate Sith at all.
I agree. I'm totally fine with putting Kate Sith at the bottom of the list.
All right.
After Barrett, for sure.
All right. That leaves one character that we have not talked about at all. Two characters, I guess. We haven't really talked about Cloud.
Which, not a great sign with the protagonist of your game. We're just kind of like,
well, here's the thing. Let's try. Let's try to talk about Cloud. Because every time I think about Final Fantasy VII, I don't remember what his deal is. So Cloud grew up with Tifa,
Uh-huh.
childhood best friends.
Yes.
Then he goes away to become a member of Soldier, which is an elite fighting force for Shinra, the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
There he meets up with a someone who does get into Soldier, is a member of Soldier named Zack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Zack and Cloud, who's just like a regular little he is a soldier but not a member of Soldier. I'm sorry. They go on some adventures together, including one with Sephiroth, where Sephiroth burns down Cloud and Tifa's hometown. Then, years later, Cloud believes Zack's memories to be his own.
That sounds right.
And then he strikes up relationships again with Tifa, who knows Cloud as Cloud, and imagines that he became a member of Soldier. And then also strikes up a relationship with Eris, who was dating Zack before he disappeared. Zack died saving Cloud's life.
Right.
And then Cloud has some like psychotic break where he doesn't remember if he is who he says he is, or if he actually is Zack,
or if he's
Sephiroth.
just like, or if he just like heard Zack tell the story, and
he's just like internalized the story.
Yeah, as like his own.
Yeah, it's like a Steve Ranazizi. I was downtown during 9/11.
Yes,
yeah,
it's exactly what
it's like. Until he gets called out on Mark Maron, and then that's when he has his psychotic.
That's why you never
break.
hear about Cloud anymore.
It's true. That's why he can't get work anymore. So that's Cloud, right? And then like he rallies together at the end to just like, he saves the planet, but like, what's he motivated by at the end? I find Cloud a little bit hard to. Once he pieces his identity back together, I don't really know what he's fighting for.
Yeah, but also I just feel like kind of nondescript, not incredibly interesting protagonist it's like Zidane in Final Fantasy IX, where it's really like the periphery characters in Final Fantasy IX that you feel anything about.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's by design that the main characters are kind of just like blank avatars that you can project
whatever you want
yourself on. I mean, that's not even really what Cloud's deal is.
No, because Cloud's deal is so specific.
Yeah.
And he's got such a weird negative attitude too.
And that's why it's kind of hard to like him.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, especially, as I was walking through my Final Fantasy history, I had played 4 and 6 before getting to 7. And, 4 has a great main character in the form of Cecil, the, Black Knight who becomes a paladin. And, like, his whole journey is awesome. And then Final Fantasy VI sort of refuses to have a single main character. And all of the characters that like you could put forth like as the main character, like Locke or Celeste, are great. They grow and change so much and have such specific personalities that Cloud can feel like a little bit of a letdown. Counterpoint, mechanically, Cloud's awesome. Cloud's got the best level 4 limit break Omni Slash, where he hits like 18 times for huge amounts of damage. And his ultimate weapon is like a giant sword that like just rips stuff up.
Yeah, Cloud is objectively cool looking.
Yeah, that too.
In a way that other like Final Fantasy protagonists are definitely not.
And he's got that big sword.
He's got the big sword, which is ridiculous, but it's just on the right side of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like, his outfit has a lot of, like 90s anime to it, but it's a like at this point,
yes,
it's a fun amount of 90s anime attitude and not like an overabundance.
Sure. So we're talking specifically here about like his design in the game and not like Advent Children.
You've heard of protagonists that get busy? Well, this is a protagonist that gets busy
regularly and thoroughly. Yeah, and I mean I think back to seeing the cover of Final Fantasy VII for the first time, which is just like you see a building in the background. You can't even really tell, is it a building? Is it a robot? Like I remember being confused by it. But then you see the back of Cloud with this sword that's just comically large, and like it is such a solid like rallying cry of like yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Cloud as a character, especially in like cosplay,
oh yeah,
has continued on.
spiky yellow hair, man. Like no one can say no to that like Super Saiyan look, right? Like it's just cool.
Oh yeah, he totally just looks like a Dragon Ball Z character.
Oh yeah,
like 100%.
Okay, so Cloud, cool. I don't know that we can slot him in just yet.
So, I know I bagged on him a lot, but tentatively, I would say after Aerith, and before
Red 13.
Red 13.
I think that's a fair judgment.
So the one we haven't really talked very much about, other than mentioning him by name and figuring out what the name of the owl was, Hootie, something like that,
Blathers,
is
Darius Rucker,
is Sid.
Sid Highwind. This is the guy who flies the airship, and aspires to go into space. So I love Sid. I think he may be my number one. He is an unrepentant jerk.
He is. He's a really big jerk.
He's a really big jerk. But
Shira,
yeah.
Yeah, is his like assistant.
Yeah.
And he's a huge jerk to Shira.
He's a huge jerk to Shira. But his character is just so clear to me is the thing. Like where a lot of these characters can feel like underwritten or sort of like undermotivated, Sid has this like do whatever it takes attitude to like get into space. Like he is a man who is like obsessed with it, and you see the results of his obsession when you approach the town that he lives in, which I believe is just called Rocket Town. Because there is the evidence of a failed rocket launch that looms large over the entire city all the time. And like, you know, he almost dies during the initial space launch, cancels it because Shira is down like in the engines. And so that's part of his resentment for her.
Yeah, he's real mad about that.
He's real mad about it. And then like you get to a point in the game where you actually do get to send Sid into space, and that's one of the for me that's one of the more like exciting or like fulfilling parts of any video game, is like here's someone who had a lifelong dream that was squashed, destroyed, and then like you get to help them realize it. And it's like a non-violent dream that, you know, it's not like a revenge fantasy, and it's not saving a princess. He gets to go into space.
And just like his career, like airship pilot, that's just cool.
That's just cool. Look, one of his limit breaks, he lights a stick of dynamite with a cigarette and then throws it. That's cool too.
I like Sid a lot as well. I don't like how mean he is to Shira.
Yeah, that can be a little bit of a bummer.
But I would put him above Red 13. I'm trying to decide if I would put him above Cloud. Probably.
I think I even like him better than Eris.
Oh, wow.
In this lineup. What do you think?
Do you think it's just like the swagger, like the attitude?
I mean, the attitude is a lot, right? Like, there are limits to how much personality you can convey in like the battle sprites, right? Like I think you see it sometimes in like Eris, the way that she'll like it looks like there's a little like nod of like prayer or solemnity or something when she does something well. But like Sid's swagger and his like he doesn't care attitude, I feel like it comes across in every animation of his. I just feel like the character is just so clearly articulated.
Yeah, I don't think I have a problem with that.
All right. Where is he? Blathers the Owl, being Sid Highwind, is going to go in third place so far here. Which leaves us with our two optional characters, Yuffie and Vincent.
So, do you think it's fair to say that both of them would go at least before Kate Sith?
Yes. I mean, honestly, if I'm talking about like who I'm going to take in my party, yeah, Yeah, definitely above Kate Sith.
Okay. So then we just need to figure out where they fit in relation to Barrett.
Okay.
For me, Vincent is definitely above Barrett. And
I feel that Yuffie is also definitely above Barrett.
okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So now Red 13 is their next roadblock as they move up the ladder here. I don't think either of them are better than Red 13.
I like Vincent more than Red 13 because I think his whole like monster thing is really cool. I love that he sleeps in a coffin.
Yeah.
I can't keep saying that enough.
You can. I mean, I'll keep saying that I hate that he transforms, and then I can't use him functionally as a character.
But I will say in Red 13's like a point in Red 13's favor is that like Vincent doesn't really have much of a story.
Right. His story is like a little bit on like the periphery, and is never one that I've like totally wrapped my head around. There's that like weird cave that you go to where he like maybe opens another coffin. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But I just feel like Red 13 well, I guess if nothing else has a more memorable arc. I mean, point well taken.
All right, so Red 13 stays where he is. Right now we've got Vincent ahead of Yuffie. I obviously would flip them, but I can respect that he's a very cool character. She is just a underrated utility player in this game.
And I mean, we talked about Sid having a cool occupation.
Yeah.
She's a ninja thief.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I guess like the thing with Yuffie is that and I guess it's played for laughs, maybe. I can't remember if it's intentional or not. But all she wants is materia.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that's like her thing.
Yeah, well, because she steals all of your materia when you first meet her,
right?
And you have to play without it for a little while, and it's a pain in the butt. And something I totally forgot about until you mentioned it. But I don't know. I like that area of the game too. You know, I like it when the Final Fantasy games can just like sort of embrace Japanese culture. Because it's like, yeah, this is something you guys know really well. Stop trying to write Barrett and do this instead.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not heartbroken if we put Yuffie ahead of Vincent.
All right, let's do that. All right, so should we review what we have on the table right now and see if we need to make any alterations to it?
Yeah.
From the bottom up, it goes Kate Sith, Barrett, Vincent, Yuffie, Red 13, Cloud, Eris, Sid Highwind, only one with the last name I just said, Tifa at number 2, and then Sephiroth at number 1. Seem weird to you that Tifa's at number 2?
No.
All right.
I don't know who I would put any higher is the thing. It is weird that she's at number 2.
Yeah.
Because if you were like, who's the second best Final Fantasy VII character, before we came into this, I would not have said Tifa.
Yeah, no, me neither.
But there's not really anybody behind her that I could argue should
be number 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like a real argument could be made for Eris being number 1. I know she dies early, but I feel like she leaves such a big hole in the game player's experience that it is a character that you like genuinely do level up, that you like forge a romantic relationship with. I'm not actually going to campaign to move her because I think coming in at number 4 and above Cloud is good and respectable. But I
do think it's a little weird to put Sid above her though.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about this.
Like I can see Sid above Cloud, hands down.
Sure.
Because you're just like, which one is more likable? Sid. Okay, great. We're done.
Right. He's more likable and is a bigger jerk.
Yeah.
Somehow at the same time.
But Eris is, like you were saying, like such an important part of the game
Uh-huh.
that if you took Sid out, the game would function.
Yeah, totally.
But if you took Eris out, kind of the heart of the game
Yeah, she's
would
one of
be gone.
she's like one of the fundamental cogs of the game,
Mm-hmm.
along with Tifa and Cloud.
And you do
Sephiroth.
feel that loss.
Yeah.
Even if even when famously that she dies,
Yeah.
that you still feel it.
Yeah, well, because it's also like hot on the heels of you collecting all these other characters, and I say all these other. There aren't that many playable characters in this game,
And rarely, they're always in different clumps.
yeah. But there is something I don't know, that's just very exciting about getting a new character and feeling like you have amassed more allies in the world, and then to actually lose one. You lost that character, whatever materia she was equipped with when she ran away. It's gone. Whatever items, whatever that's it. The game makes you lose her, which is tough, and feels meaningful in a way that a lot of the other character interactions don't.
Yeah, I think we need to move Sid.
Okay.
I think we need to move Aerith up because it just feels silly to have Aerith or to have Sid be
above her.
Mm-hmm. Just based on likability factor is essentially what it would come down to.
Yeah, so this still means that we've got Tifa at number 2, which feels odd to me.
But I think it's right because I think Tifa is more important than Aerith.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Well, the loss is felt. At the end, you got to go to war with the army you have, and not the army you wish you had. Right.
Right.
All right. This is going to be our final order. I believe.
I think so. I feel pretty good about it.
Okay, Kate Sith at the bottom. So how many characters are here? 10?
10.
Number 10, Kate Sith. Number 9, Barrett. Number 8, Vincent. Number 7, Yuffie. Number 6, Red 13. Number 5, Cloud. Number 4, Sid. Number 3, Eris. Number 2, Tifa. And number 1, because how could he not, Sephiroth coming in at number 1. How did we do? Mark, how do you think we did?
I give us a 10 out of 10.
I give us 110 out of 10. That's 110 out of 10. If you have a different list, listeners, you should write in and let us know. Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
Or if possibly we just misrepresented one of these characters or are missing a crucial piece of information about how one character is useful or not useful.
And anything that happened after Final Fantasy VII doesn't count. Don't want to hear about Advent Children.
No, and I don't want to hear about Crisis Core or anything like that, or how one of them is represented in Theatrhythm. I'm not interested. All right, Mark, let's close this out. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate it when you do that. You can also share our episodes on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share things. On Twitter, I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. You can check out the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
Campfire.